Khalid Malik's Morning Jam. Time now for the encounter on FM91. Two very special guests this morning as we talk 40 years of AKU. He is Director, Office of Strategic Communications, Aga Khan University. Before taking on the challenge of leading strategic communications at AKU, he served as the Secretary to the Board of Trustees, identifying and engaging talented and highly accomplished leaders in healthcare, academia, finance, resource development, government and other sectors as trustees. Joining us this morning is Karim Sayani Saab, also Dean, Institute for Educational Development, Pakistan, Aga Khan University, Dr. Farid Panjwani, who's got a DPhil in Philosophy of Education from the University of Oxford, also holds an MA in Education and International Development from the Institute of Education, University College London, and an MBA and a BBA from the Institute of Business Administration, University of Karachi. Welcome to the both of you gentlemen, and welcome to the encounter. Farid Panjwani Saab, so many degrees. So what do you do in your spare time is all my question. You can come nice and close to the mic.
Now we help other people get degrees and useful degrees. So no, it has been a good journey. I think degrees have their use. But the more important thing is to be able to go to the essence of a particular field. I started off as a business administration and taught at the IBA for some time, worked in the business, but realized that my passion was teaching and research. So then moved into the humanities and education, did a degree at Oxford, which was a fascinating experience. And after about 25 years, I've come back to Pakistan to serve in the field of education. And
both of you had a journey and experiences of your own with AKU, and we'd like to get a little sort of snippet and snapshot of that. How was your journey, or where did it start for you with you at AKU?
Well, it's actually quite fascinating when I reflect back. I've been at Aga Khan University now for 20 years.
Oh, really? Wow.
And so I started, it was quite a fortuitous opportunity that came to me 20 years ago. And I was just exploring various opportunities, having just graduated from different degrees as well in Canada.
And what did you finish? What was
and I was in medical research. I was doing French research and also biotech industry support in Canada. Very different from what I landed in AKU. So this opportunity came up for the secretary of the board. And in university governance and university administration. But the exciting part was that it was at a university, AKU, that was only half its age that it is now. So it was just blossoming, and there was.
What year was this? What year
2003.
Okay.
So this I applied, and I still don't understand how they chose me, but they did, and my life was never the same. So I did that for 19 years, and saw the university change and grow, become international, expand in Pakistan amazingly. And now I got a year ago this opportunity to put some of my talent, hopefully, into communications, which is a fascinating field.
Do you remember your research at last university? Do you remember what that was?
Yes, I actually concentrated a lot in wound healing. So I was studying the healing process after deep burn wounds. And I got an interesting publication. We figured out a key in the puzzle of deep burn wound healing. So that was fascinating. It was a different world. When I think back, I'm like, it must be a different life.
And what was that? Do you remember? Is it in practice today?
So it's led to the furthering. So interestingly, my wife searched me on Google about 6 months ago, and she found that the publication's still being referred. So we identified this protein, a proteoglycan, for anybody who knows about these proteins, and it's a scaffolding protein in the healing process in your skin, and it's called decorin. So that that particular molecule is
Yeah.
absent when you have deep burns.
Okay.
It arrives too late, and then you get overgrowth of skin. So we published this, the timeline expression, and it's now being built upon for additional research in wound healing and therapies, etc. So it's interesting.
So FYI, just FYI, we're sort of geeking out a little bit here, but my last year university, I was accepted into a research project. I didn't do it because I decided to become an actor. But it was the male pill.
Oh.
It was researching the male pill. I was just looking up the other day the preclinical trials on. Panjwani Sahab, your journey with AKU, when did that start? Was it when you came back from Oxford, or how did that begin for you?
So, actually, this is the third time that I have joined the AKU. You can see my love for AKU there.
So you left, you came back, and you left, you came back. This love-hate relationship.
So, when I was here after my business administration degree, for a brief time I worked in budget and planning in the AKU. Then I joined after my degree at Oxford, I joined the campus, AKU's campus in the UK. We have a campus in the United Kingdom, which is about Islamic studies. And I was a faculty member there. And then I moved to UCL, spent 10 years there. And now 2 years ago, I came back as the Dean at the Institute for Educational Development.
And what were your expectations before you walked in as Dean? And I'm curious if it has met some of those expectations.
Yes, I think the expectations were high and they have been met. You see, I think AKU is a place where substance is much more than hype. And so when I joined as the Dean, I knew about AKU in many ways. And yet, not a day passes when I don't learn something new about the areas we are working in, whether in health or nursing, or the impact we are having. And therefore, it becomes a source of gratefulness every day that I am with this organization that is able to make such a tremendous difference in the lives of people. So great learning opportunity, great learning journey, lots of difficulties as a city and its infrastructure. But the moment you then reconnect with your work, those difficulties also become something that one can manage and turns into an opportunity to do something. So I think it's the ideals of AKU that attracted me to come here. And so far, it's good. It's a wonderful journey.
40 years of AKU. We're going to head to break and come back and we'll talk more. But I'm curious, Dr. Panjwani, Oxford University. How many years were you there at Oxford?
4 years.
4 years. Your fondest memory, do you remember? Or do you
Yes, actually, apart from excellent teaching and learning, the college dinners. Because they are actually very much crafted to help students in their social life.
Right.
The dinners are done in a way that you learn the way of conversation, how to keep the conversation going.
So it's very deliberate.
Very deliberate, those dinners, especially for students. The faculty ensures that it is there. And so there's an educational and social experience. You meet new people.
Nice.
You go beyond your own field. And you interact with people from other fields. So those were very, very good experiences. But overall, because the university is city and the city is university, so it's always a wonderful, joyful...
and forge new relationships too, and new friendships as well.
Absolutely.
I bet. We're going to head to break. We're back with more 40 years of AKU on The Encounter. Good morning. 40 years of AKU, Director Office of Strategic Communications, Karim Sayani, and Dean, Institute for Educational Development, Dr. Farid Panjwani, joining us this morning. Sayani Sahab, milestones, 40 years.
Yes.
It's a long time.
Yes.
What are some of the milestones that, as you look back on 40 years ago, wow, we didn't do too badly?
Yeah. Oh my. There's so many of the milestones, which I think is the reason that a key reason that we're celebrating 40th is that in a short lifespan of a university, four decades is very short. To reflect back and see where we've come to has been humbling and very inspiring. So the first and foremost message really is that this has really been the inspiration of His Highness's vision. His Highness the Aga Khan is our founder and chancellor, who we're commemorating. His vision is what we're commemorating in the 40th year. So with his guidance and his vision, we were granted the first and foremost milestone is really the charter by the government of Pakistan in 1983, March 16th, which really then unleashed the potential in Pakistan to do so much. So, one of the key things that we focused on, and we still do, obviously, is the health sciences.
Yeah.
Then we branched out, and Dr. Panjwani would talk much more about the educational development side. But in the beginning, it was the School of Nursing. It was the fundamental foundation and has been a foundation that has guided a lot of our development in the health sciences. So the School of Nursing is what we kicked off in 81. And then we went on to develop the medical college and our hospital that everybody, I think, knows and loves today in Pakistan, which is the 80s. And then, we went on to develop then the Institute for Educational Development in the early 90s. And we went on to build capacity in these areas for the 90s. And eventually we then hit the 2000s. The 2000s was a really phenomenal time.
Really?
His Highness gave us the guidance and pushed us to then go international. So the capacity that we built in Pakistan, and Pakistanis should be proud because we stood on that capacity to then go forward into other areas such as Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, the United Kingdom, and Afghanistan. And our graduates from here went on to help us develop the precursor programs in the different regions. Now we have campuses in 6 different countries around the world, and we're developing more. But other key milestones that we would then have developed from then is the whole aspect of the Center for Innovation in Medical Education in Pakistan, which is state of the art. People from around the globe tell us, from the U.S. and Canada, that they don't have such a facility, which trains our medical education experts, and just so many other milestones in how we've developed excellence in teaching and research. So today our research portfolio is in excess of $100 million.
Wow.
And we're now attracting research support from and partnerships from institutions globally. We're developing research in stem cells, in mental health issues, in Muslim civilizations. It's a whole diverse cadre of areas, but our research is actually contributing at the world stage in knowledge creation, which today is very unique for a developing country, or an institution in a developing country. So we're at the table now for knowledge creation, for research, at the global table, and that to me is a huge milestone as well.
And I probably want to pick your brain a little later on as to what is to come.
Yes, absolutely.
As we look down, into what is probably the next 40 and then the next 40, etc.
So Khalid, it's interesting because that you mentioned that, because our tagline for our visual identity, our logo of sorts for the 40th year, we struggled a lot with that. I finally had to listen to my team at our Office of Strategic Communications, and I'm sure they're all giggling right now.
Because you don't listen to them anyway.
I finally had to listen to them. So they pushed me to say our tagline should be onwards, future looking. And I want to acknowledge them today, because that is really what we're focusing on as well.
Onwards.
Yeah.
Dr. Panjwani, the Institute for Education and Development, what is that exactly?
Okay. So, I think to talk about the Institute for Education Development, we have to keep in mind 2 things. One, that education is central to the development of any country.
Agreed.
And all the fields that Karim talked about in which AKU has ventured have been chosen very wisely, and with keeping in mind the needs of the developing society that we are. Health sciences was one, and education was the second area we ventured and where we opened. So that's the first thing. Second, within the education, the most important variable across the world, wherever you see good education system, is the quality of teachers.
Agreed.
And so that was decided that we want to work in education generally, but we want to focus on teachers and the quality of teachers. And that's what IED has been about for the last 30 years. It has graduate programs, it has research, and it does advocacy in this area. But very soon we realize that teachers cannot do much in the classrooms until there is a support from the leadership, principals, heads. So then we added leadership, educational leadership to our portfolio. Educational leadership and teacher development has been our work. We prepare teachers who transform the pedagogies in the classroom from the traditional pedagogies that we all partly critique to new, constructive, creative, progressive pedagogies which put student in learning first. And our teachers have gone across Pakistan. They come from across Pakistan. 90% of our graduates stay in Pakistan and make a difference in both public and private sector. So teacher development is the most important thing that we do, and alongside with that, educational leadership. And we have also, as a university, if I talk about it, now have an examination department as well, and we conduct examination as well. And that's the first private exam board in Pakistan. So these are the two very major areas that we work on in education. And the other thing I would like to mention is that the encouragement and advancement of the status of teachers is also very important. It's not just a technical exercise of how you teach, but what status and what respect and dignity you give to teachers, which then ensures that the best minds are attracted to teaching. Because if you can't attract the best minds, it's very hard to then have a teaching profession at a certain level. So we also do a huge amount of advocacy. And currently, one of the things we are making a case for is teaching license. Pakistan doesn't have teaching license. But we are working with Durbeen and with Sindh government. We published a white paper on teaching license last year, because I think this could be a seminal thing that we can do for our country's educational sector, to ensure that whoever comes to teaching has certain qualifications, certain characters, so that the students get the best. And teaching license could be one of the ways in which this can be done.
And we're going to go to a break. When we come back, I want to follow that up with the current situation. When we look at the sphere of education, where is that right now in Pakistan?
Yes.
Because as a parent, and I might speak for other parents, it's not that great.
I agree.
But we'll go to a break and come back with that. It's the encounter on the Morning Jam. We're talking 40 years of AKU. We're talking to Dr. Farid Panjwani just before the break. And we're talking about licensing of teachers. And, you know, we're as parents, we're concerned with the competency level of some teachers at schools, because as parents, we get to see what's happening at a very sort of first-hand experiential level. Where do you see education right now in Pakistan, and what concerns you the most?
So, we talked about teacher quality.
Yeah.
That is one aspect of a range of problems that we can see. One of the biggest one is children who are not in schools. There are about 25 million children in Pakistan of the school age are not in school. And we're probably number one in the world, or certainly number two, if not number one. Just imagine, 33 to 40% of our children are not even going to schools. What kind of future they will have? So access is a big issue. And those who go to school, the quality that they get in terms of textbooks, in terms of infrastructure, teachers, exams, everything. But then one should also ask what works. I think what works is elite education for a tiny percentage of our population. 5, 7, 10%. They have decent schools, they have decent universities as well. So what has not worked is public sector and low-cost private schools. And low-cost private schools have mushroomed because the public sector has failed. So parents are putting there. Eventually, if I look at the cause, not the symptoms, these are all symptoms that we have poor teacher quality and others, they're all symptoms. The cause is that our ruling elite needs to be more politically engaged and show more political will to create a better education system. It's not about resources and it's not about knowledge. Countries poorer than us have managed to create good education system, and there is enough know-how within the country of what to be done. I think it's a matter of putting it together, maybe a very powerful non-partisan task force that comes up with recommendations of what needs to be done, and a political dedication for next 5, 7, 10 years to really follow those recommendations regardless of which party is in power and which attitude is in power, and we do it. It can be done with the right political will And why the political will is not there, that should be the next question. In my view, is that our economy doesn't depend on knowledge and skills. It depends on rent from security and rent from land. So the elite is not really concerned about developing knowledge. Once we realize that our rental economy is now reaching its limits, and we ought to develop knowledge and skills so that we can have an economy that generates money through knowledge and skill and resources, I think then we will pay attention. And that's where advocacy is required, to make people realize that we are reaching a point where without knowledge, without skills, we will become a dustbin of history. And I think it's a tipping point for us to work on it. It can be done.
Have we reached that tipping point, or we haven't yet?
Well, in some ways we have, because we can see all around us nations that are moving forward. And if we don't realize it, if we are not in tipping point right now, we will be there soon. So I think any day that we are not doing the right thing, we are getting one step back. But it can be done. This is the key point. Many people would think that resources are the issue, or not having the right kind of people or know-how is the issue. I don't think any of that is the issue. It's really to generate the political will to make it happen. And if that comes through civil society pressure and through elite recognition, within 10 years we can change the face of education.
I would also probably say that money is a big factor too. I mean, accessibility to education, those that aren't able to access education, money is a huge factor. भाई पैसे नहीं, मैं फीस कैसे पे करूं? लेकिन जो schools है जहाँ पर फीस आपको नहीं देनी पड़ती, उनकी हालत आप देख लें. So I don't get it. I'm sure policies are in place, but as with most policies, they have troubles implementing.
Yes.
So, I mean, are we working towards implementing policies that are already in place? I'm curious with the IED and AKU and so on. Is that sort of underway, or?
I think there are clearly constitutional obligations there as well. The state is obliged to provide free, compulsory, quality education to all. So that is the ultimate policy. When the Constitution says you ought to do something, you ought to do something. So it's a failure of implementation. You fail in implementation when you lack the will. That you want to do something. And that is where I'll give you one simple example. We have educational hierarchy of people who work in education, from district officers to education secretaries. You find tremendous move there. An education secretary starts to do well, you move him somewhere else or move her somewhere else. And often education posts are given to people who have no background in education. So they spend 6 months, 8 months, 3 months, they move. There's no consistency there. But I must also say that there is ray of hope, because across all provinces there are now small and big things that are happening that are moving us in some good direction. So Punjab, for example, has done a lot on teacher education. Sindh is doing a lot for moving the students from out of school into schools. But what is required is really a coordination across the whole of Pakistan. And as I mentioned, which we see in many other countries, a great recommended by specialists, a plan that is not affected by which party is in power, takes the education seriously. Long-term 10-15 years plan to improve examination, to improve teacher quality, to improve infrastructure, and a complete dedication, putting in the resources. And the resources are there because we often talk about public resources. We forget that the private resources are also there. All those parents who are putting in the resources going into education. There are many multinational agencies which are willing to put resources in Pakistan. So I think the resource factor doesn't seem to me to be too critical when the will is there. But I think it's the implementation of those policies, and sometimes even creating the right kind of policies. We also have to look at what happens in the classroom and what kind of discussions are happening. And that's where again teacher quality becomes very, very central, what discussions are taking. Somebody mentioned recently that we use these two terms, Talim and Tarbiyah. I think we need to put equal emphasis on that. Because many of the things that we are facing in society are not because of Talim but because of the lack of Tarbiyah.
फिर लोग ये कहेंगे कि तरबियत की जिम्मेदारी वालिदैन के ऊपर है.
बहुत important जिम्मेदारी वालिदैन के ऊपर है, there is no doubt, and I think that that collaboration between school and parents is very important, so that they can also do what needs to be done. And early years become very important, ECD and the primary education. वहाँ पर I believe कि less emphasis is given on tarbiyah than on functional literacies. I think we need to redress that, because in the first 7-8 years of the child, the mind is great, the character is developing, and the body is developing. I think if you can focus on all three, you can create a strong base, and that can only happen when the community, the parents, and the school work together.
You know, it's very interesting. Someone pointed out the other day, and I want to come to you, Sayani Saab, that the first Muslims, when they did Hijrah to Medina, there were only like 100 Muslims, right? 100 Muslims that completed the Hijrah to Medina, and then from there, they managed to, the greater part of Asia was Muslim. What was it that allowed for that to happen? It was character. It was character building. जिसे आप शायद हम तरबियत कहेंगे आज के दौर में, जो हमने sideline कर दिया है. Do you agree?
I think.
But then my follow-up to that is, and I will come to Sayani, who's responsible? Teacher का मेरा क्या काम है तरबियत? वो तो आप करें वालिदैन. मेरा काम तो तालीम देना है.
आपकी बात बिल्कुल ठीक है. जैसे आप एक छोटी सी एग्जांपल लें, it's very difficult now to express your ideas freely if it is they are different from others. हम difference को manage नहीं कर पाते हैं. We want very unified ideas. अगर आप किसी तरह भी आपकी सोच थोड़ी different है, so you feel that threatened. There are different groups we don't respect. आप सड़क पे चलते हुए देख लें, you can see the lack of character there.
Yeah.
Not concern
yes.
for others. Common good का concern नहीं. And I think if you look at some other countries, they in the first few years make sure that the character building takes place in the right way. And that, so please carry on.
No, go.
So I think that is where our focus should be, because once you make a good human being, then that good human becomes good engineer, good doctor, good engineer. And I think we have somehow taken our eyes off that, and that needs to come back very strongly.
I was just going to add to what to what Farid is saying. I can say Farid, right? No.
Yes.
I can, the Institute for Educational Development is fascinating to me, and I've been in my communications role for a while. And when they've developed really special ecosystems in different parts of the country, if we go and see those ecosystems and how they have developed. So my children, I sent my children when I first arrived in Karachi to a public school, but the teachers were being supported and trained and developed through the IED,
right?
The Institute of
Okay.
So they had a very interesting experience, and it helped them to connect to the local milieu, but they were getting good quality. And like that, IED has done some really interesting work in the northern areas, and they've done some very interesting work in Sindh as well. So those ecosystems give you a sense of the impact and the development that's possible if you invest in this sector. So it's not that it's not there. It's there. But like Farid is mentioning, I think we just need to take a much bigger approach to bring the dots together and make a bigger impact for the country.
I hate to do this. We have to go to one final break, and we'll be back. It's just on 11 a.m. If you have any questions, by the way, 0315-111-9191. 40 years of AKU, and you said that the slogan, or the sort of, if you will, the mindset is onwards.
Onwards, yes.
What is next and onward, nationally and internationally, for the AKU?
Great, thanks you, Khalid. So we are celebrating an amazing 40 years of impact.
Right.
And just to quickly mention things that we, I don't know if people understand, like, for example, we set up the first nursing school in Pakistan ever.
Yeah.
Today, we have 60 nursing schools in Pakistan. 53, Khalid, are led by AKU alum. So that impact, we know, Farid represents an institute that has educated so many teachers, teaching leaders, that are now spread out throughout Pakistan developing the education system. So that impact is something we want to bring to the population, and so that everybody can understand how AKU is contributing. So that's number one. The other one is we are very excited, Khalid, to bring to Pakistan we're launching the Faculty of Arts and Sciences of AKU. And the Faculty of Arts and Sciences, we were talking earlier today about building the quality of individual, right? The quality of character, the quality of individual. Our Faculty of Arts and Sciences will be concentrated on that, is to build the citizen, the ideal citizen, who has an open mind, who has critical thinking capacities, who's working in humanities, sciences across the board, and that kind of training could be really a foundational aspect of how we then develop people who could be future leaders of the country. And we're going to do that. You know, we've got incredible learnings from Habib, who's launched their Faculty of Arts and Sciences, from LUMS, etc. So we're working collaboratively in the country, and that's something we're very excited about. And I think Farid was going to say something as well about the Faculty of Arts and Sciences.
Yes. So going back to the character building that we talked about, and we talked about the role of family, which is important. But that's mostly about, in most cases, about mannerism, etiquette. But character also refers to the character of mind, the way of thinking. This is where schools and universities come in. And this is where Faculty of Arts and Sciences also comes in. Because it has the potential to provide the young people with the fine elements of our culture and our history, poetry, novels, art, philosophy. Because when the mind engages with those best ideas, it gets refined in a certain way.
Completely.
And I think that is also something that we are missing in our country. Good quality places where people can engage with the best of our culture and culture around the world. And I think that refinement of character can come, and that is the role of universities, which schools and universities can do, which families often would struggle to do. So there's a role for family, and there is a role for our arts and science and many other such institutions in the country.
I'd like to thank the both of you for joining us this morning on The Encounter. And if we wanted to, so the Faculty of Arts and Sciences is underway, or
it's going to be launched in September. Admissions are underway, and
admissions are underway.
And we should kick off in September.
And if we want more info, where would you like to?
You can look at our website, aku.edu. And the contacts are there, the information of the program is there, or you can contact any of us.
And your number is?
Very willing to
Director Office of Strategic Communication, AKU, Karim Sayani Saab. Dean, Institute for Educational Development, AKU, Dr. Farid Panjwani. Thank you to the both of you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining me this week. As always, great having your company. Reminder to subscribe to us on YouTube, and we'll catch you Monday. Have a great weekend. May your news be good news.